you have joined the webinar about GA4 and BigQuery. So what we want to show you today is how to troubleshoot your data to make confident decisions with your data and find out if something is off or how you can work with your data. I'm the co-host. I'm Thomas from Verify.io. Yeah, please switch to the next slide. All right. So Verify is an A/B testing platform. Quick advertisement block here. We want to help businesses to unlock their full online potential with making advanced decisions and to optimize their websites. Yeah, if you're interested in A/B testing, I would recommend having a look at our platform. And now I will make place and give Bruna the mic. So Bruna, it's your turn now.
Thank you. I will start talking about my company. So we are AIM Consulting company. We are conversion experts and we act like a business unit on demand. So we have 4 engagement models. The first one is our operation, that our teams handles everything for you, ensuring end-to-end execution. The second one is outsourcing. We provide skilled professionals to support your internal operations. The third one is standalone. We execute complete focus projects from start to finish on specific topics. And the fourth one is consulting. We offer full guidance and support so you can execute with confidence on your own. And a little about me. I'm a data and experimentation specialist focused on CRO and analytics strategy. We partner with brands to translate mass data into meaningful decisions, like this webinar we are doing right now. I am experienced in GA4, BigQuery, and structured reliable measurement foundations, and I am passionate about experimentation culture and building scalable insights. So the executive summary that I will have in this webinar will be in 3 general topics. The first one is why data doesn't always make sense. So I will show how to identify and troubleshoot GA4 tracking and interpretation issues. The second topic is when segments break and funnels don't add up. So what's really behind those numbers that disappear or shift? And the third topic is how BigQuery helps you see more clearly. Not just about SQL, it's about thinking with data, especially when it's unreliable.
All right. Bruna, before you jump in, if anybody has a question, feel free to ask in the chat and we will try to answer it. Feel free. So, okay, Bruna, now you can go on.
Thank you. So the first part is entitled, Are My Numbers Right? So we will focus here on diagnosing GA4 data reliability. So why metrics don't always match between tools? Frequently, we want to configure a metric in a A/B test tool or even in another database. And when we collect the data, we see a mismatch between the numbers. So by how much this mismatch is normal? What data can we rely on? We rely on the A/B testing tool, we rely on GA4, we rely on another database. So here I brought a data that is full supported with Google about slight discrepancies between tools. And this is, sorry? And this is very well accepted between every specialist. So we have three scenarios. The first one is the robust implementation that has 5%, less than 5% mismatch. The second scenario is the most common one. We stumble. That is the 5 to 10%. That is the standard client side tracking. And the third one is if you have multiple integrations or mixed tracking between your client and other platforms and the services that you are doing, you can reach up to 15.
Bruna, one question here.
Okay.
If you have a server-side tracking besides the client-side tracking, so the reason is that you try to get your tracking more accurate, right? Why is the accepted difference here 15%, and for only client-side it's less than 15%? Can you explain that?
Of course. We say that's up to 15% when this mixed tracking, because we are working with multiple integrations and the mixed with client and server side. So we are dealing with a lot of variables. And if it has to be well documented and explained by the tools used, that is the acceptable. So, but summing it up, it's because you are dealing with a lot of tools and with a lot of different ways of measuring. And then this often increases the mismatch between the tools.
Yes. And also, just to add from my side, if you need to collect consent from your clients, from your users, this also may increase the difference.
Yes, exactly. And here is an example of a mismatch between VTEX and GA4. It has more transactions registered in VTEX than in Google Analytics. But if you do the calculations of the percentage of difference, it's less than 5%. So this is a well-tested implementation, this very robust example. And how to do with events missing, duplicate conversions, and unexpected drops. So one of the upsides of making a lot of A/B tests in different scenarios with different tools and if different digital contexts with different clients, that it's our scenario here, is that we stumble into new problems and learn to identify them and develop mechanisms to avoid them or even solve. The downside is that we have a lot of surprise. This is an example of a very big surprise that we had recently, that we can have duplicate transactions, and this can happen between versions or within the same version. So here we have the A and the B version of the test, and we have a scenario where the same transaction is counting on both versions, and we have examples where it's triplicated or even counted 5 times for the same version of the test. So how we diagnose this problem? We diagnose by analyzing the transactions ID per each test version. So if you have a buyer with the same ID in both versions, or if you have 3 buyers for a unique ID in the same version, you must check a few things. So in our case, the first scenario that was the same ID in both versions was occurring because the testing tool split the traffic using sessions. And the correct is to split by user IDs or user cookies. So we enter in contact with the tool, and we solve this by applying a short command in the script to assure that we will capture the data based on users. And the second scenario was occurring because the client has a free GA4. And when it starts to sample the data, this triplication of buyers is normal because it's only saying to us that is trying to make the math of total buyers without showing all the data. So the solution in the second case is to use unsampled results. How to spot tracking and configuration issues in GA4? Does my GA4 have personalized dimensions? If so, how are they named? So we need to get familiar with the tool, the metrics, the dimensions, and the segmentations. How do they receive my parameters? Is by personalized dimensions? Is the default dimensions of GA4? It's receiving by the dimension or a segmentation or a metric. Is it free or paid? This makes a lot of difference, not only because the case that I brought in the last slide, but because we have sample results in the free option of GA4.
Can you be more specific? What's the difference? What is the difference? So is it more sampled or is it not sampled and paid? So can you be?
Sure.
Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. In the paid GA4, we don't have sample data. And in the free GA4, we have sample data, and the amount of sample data will depend on the traffic that you have on your website. So, for example, if you are a very niched player, you can use the free version of GA4 without problems because the registration of the data will be less than the limit of the free GA4.
All right.
So do I have to be concerned with sample results? It depends on a lot of things. The first one is the traffic that I said right now. And the second one is what you are trying to measure. If it's a behavior, you don't have to worry about sample results. If you are measuring a conversion, a recipe, transactions, buyers, you have to be careful with sample results. And one question very important is, do the numbers make sense with my e-com? So the traffic that is being registered in the GA4, it is according to what I know about my e-com. For transactions, the same question, recipe, the same question. It's important to know that because you can spot very quickly configuration issues in GA4. And if not, makes sense. When did it start? It started when I did a configuration change or when I did some change in the URLs or when I added a metric or a dimension to capture my data. All of this can influence the numbers being registered in the tool, in this case, GA4. And one important thing to analyze is if it's a specific segment where this is happening. So this can be of a specific cohort. For example, you configure your own cohort of new users or recurrent users, and this trouble can be occurring only in the segmentation. So you know that your segmentation isn't built properly. And here is an example of a lot of personalized dimensions that we can make. So we can make about category, attributes, affiliation, content, component, the text of our call to actions, and what you imagine you can personalize. And what's a practical checklist for common mistakes? The first one is that transactions has to be greater than buyers, because transactions are registered based in sessions and buyers in users. So users is the macro dimension that we use. The second one is related. So sessions always has to be greater than users, because one user can enter on your ecom a lot of times in different periods. So he will be registered like one user, but in a different amount of sections. And a few common percentages of, is in the attention step, you can have 40 to 70% is the acceptable. For interest is 40 to 60, and for decision is 8 to 15. If you have very different numbers than that, you have to analyze if you're configuring your funnel steps correctly, or if you are having a problem with the registration of your data. Another practical thing that you have to check is if the number of a specific vision is lower than the number of the general vision. So if you are doing a segmentation of a specific group of users, it has to be less than the total amount of the users that you are analyzing. And the third, the last one is the new and returning users that can be equal, lower, or higher than the general number of users without the segmentation. And that occurs because the way of GA4 registering what's a new and a returning user. So it has a specific amount of time that it registers with a returning or a new user. And the same can be applied to other segmentations like payment type and product type. In this example, in this print example, we brought a scenario where buyers were higher than transactions. So this is a big problem because transactions are registered in the session level, short-term metric, and buyers are in the user level, which is a long-term metric. So this is something that we have to immediately stop the machines and fix the registration of this data. So the second topic that I brought here is segment crosses and filters when it just doesn't work. So this filter has removed all my data. What now? Why does that occur? Is the first thing that you will have to ask yourself. It occurs because the GA4 can't find this data with this filter. So simply saying, the filter works on the moment that the data was captured. If you want to see a filter of data in a product page, we can't use a filters related to home or cart. But if I want to see just the users that did a specific thing in the product page and then went to cart, Then we use segmentations, the most useful tool in GA4. In segmentation, you can include or exclude a cohort, you can establish a sequence of actions, and then you can cross with all the data that you need. And if the segmentation still shows no data, it means that users didn't do what you thought, and that's normal. We always expect a specific path of steps, and the users, they just want to navigate and get to know more about your ecom. So this is an example of data missing, just because we tried to use filters that didn't add up. So we are crossing product pages with cart.
Yes.
And here,
So,
sorry.
sorry. So in my experience, some, or not only sometimes, often it happens that you want to filter something, and then you have a logic error in your segment, which causes that no data is showing. And that's basically what you're showing right now. So it happens from time to time, and if you rethink what you wanted to find out with a segment, and you build a segment in a different way, then it works sometimes.
Yes, exactly. And you can still use the filters, but you have to make sure that you are crossing them correctly and using the segments properly. So here we did a segment, and then we applied a coupon filter. So we did a segment of all coupons, and then we applied the coupon that we wanted to see. Limitations in GA4 when crossing dimensions, user and session and events. So there is when you, by default, you collect complete data. So what if you don't want to see the complete data? What if you want to see just a group of users or sessions or events? You have to use the cohort comparison. So you create a segment, or you can even create a cohort in GA4. It has this possibility too. It depends on how frequently you want to see this group of users. Uh, and if you want to compare with others cohorts, you get a problem in GA4 when it isn't paid that it starts with sample data. So I did a segment of one type of users, for example, users that were in my A version of a test, and then they wanted to, they had to interact with a call to action. When I compare this with another segment of users that did not use the call to action, it can be sampled. And this is a setting that is well documented by Google. It's normal, and you have to take care if you want to see behavior data or transaction data. Like I said, for transaction data, you always have to worry with a lot of sampled results. For behavior data, you don't have to worry so much.
Bruna, one question.
Okay.
If sampling is happening, how do you detect it as a user? And what do you say is acceptable in terms of percentage?
Great question. So the GA4 has a lot of symbols that show if your data is sampled. Uh, in the usually in the top part of the GA4, you see the symbols. If it's a green symbol, it means that your data isn't sampled. If it's a blue exclamation point, it means that it's sampled by 8 to 99%. And if this is a totally acceptable sample data because it reflects the majority of the unsampled data. If it's orange or red, it's with a warning sign, it means it has less than 8% sampled. And if the sample is below 8%, you should take extra care with your data because it doesn't reflect the majority of your users.
All right.
So you can have filtering issues with multiple events or page views. If you try to filter users who perform 2 or 3 events or visit 2 pages, sorry, if you use that only in the filters, you can have a mismatch problem and can result in missing data or outright errors. And the solution is to work with segmentation in GA4 using the sequences, the inclusion, exclusion, and other options in the GA4 segmentation. And this solution solves most crossing problems. And if it's not working, even though you are using the segmentation, you can use another tools like BigQuery or the feature of Verify that allows you to use BigQuery without making SQL commands. So what about funnels analysis when steps don't add up and users vanish? So oftenly funnels break even when the tracking looks correct. Even when the names might be correct, the data structures matters more. So you have to make sure that the funnel steps that you are configuring depends not just on what happened, but how it was captured. This includes parameters, event timing, and section structuring. Some common issues that we can stumble up. Steps performed out of order, so I'm trying to configure a path that the user that I think that the user should do, but the users don't do this path. Missing intermediate events due to browser or network issues. So commonly the GA4 have a limit of time that he can register something. So if it's taking a lot of time to load the page, or if your browser isn't sending the parameters correctly, you can have problems with your data. And this can be solved in the configurations of GA4 or with BigQuery. And session interrupts that break continuity can happen too. So that's why important that you define if you are seeing these events by sessions or by users. The ideal is to always use by users. And other common issues is constant implementation by different teams. So you can have same event name with different parameters. And if you search by parameters, you will have 2 different acts that your users are doing in your website. And if you search for the event name, you will have duplicate numbers because they are registering different parameters in the same event. And these issues create the illusions of correct tracking while silently breaking analysis. That's why you have to have a clear documentation of what you are tracking and how you are configuring the events and the parameters that you are sending to make sure that you are not capturing duplicated things, or even you are not capturing correctly what you want to track on your funnel. And then how to structure events and parameters for consistent flow tracking. The key to reliable funnel analysis is intentional event designs. So each step must be clearly defined, ideally with consistent naming conventions and required parameters. So GA4 has a lot of events that are default, and you can use them to build your funnel. So you have to define each step with consistent name conventions, require parameters. So you have a lot of parameters that you can send, and you can use that to see different cohorts or different types of paths that your user is doing. In avoiding relying only on page view or clicks. Why is that? Because it's common for GA4 not registering sometimes the URL properly. So the custom events for funnel milestones are the most recommended because it's the default of GA4, and they register more precisely than the URL. And you have to structure events around your user intention. So what's the intention that I want to see in this step of the funnel? Not just technical triggers. Oh, I want to see if my user clicked on something, or if he just engaged with my website. These are very important things that you have to stay very clear with all your team that for your configuration, and to correctly keep your funnel configured. So for A/B tests, is your test broken or just inconclusive? Distinguish between setup issues and statistically no results. Not every test that shows nothing is a failure, but some are just broken. So a classical mistake is incorrect experiment implementation. Assigning all users to the same variant, tracking only one step, or even not capturing conversions correctly. These issues result in tests that look like they had no effect, when in fact the measurement was flawed. On the other hand, even when tracking is correct, some results are generally no, and that's okay. It's normal to have a test that the result is no. The challenge is being able to tell the difference. Is it broken or just inconclusive? So you have to make sure that you are using the setup correctly to be sure that the test is just statistically no. Well, bringing some real examples when segmentation hides the true impact of a test. So imagine that you run a successful test, but your GA4 segmentations splits users in a way that hides the effect. Here in this graphic is a nice example. We are seeing the sales by month. So if you see by month, you cannot see properly if the test you are making or if the data that you are tracking is correctly configured. And maybe if you analyze in a higher view or even in a lower view, you can have more accurate results. So you have to ask yourself if I should configure the test based on users or sessions, if I should segment my cohorts, and if I have a high variance of traffic sources, because that can really confound you when you are dealing with the data. So if you focus too much on the details, you might miss the big picture. So always start analyzing the big picture, and then you can see the cohorts and the traffic sources and all this detailed data that you want to analyze. Always making sure that these segments that you are creating are were also splitted evenly in your A/B test. So entering in the closing discussion, before you build dashboards, fix your data. What are the questions your data still isn't answering? Dashboards often show you what's easy to measure, not what truly matters. What decisions do you wish you could make but don't trust the data for? These blind spots reveal where your current setup is falling short. So here is an example that a very beautiful dashboard, but you cannot see properly and clearly what are the main segmentations that you are making, how you constructed that segments, and if the data is properly configured. So before you're making this very beautiful dashboards, you have to check the data and see that it's making real sense for your ecom. And what aren't you tracking that you probably should be? So you have to ask yourself a few questions. What are the success metrics? What are your audience? What are your business objectives? You want to track only success metrics or behavior metrics. The most powerful insight may hide in uncollected events. What I should be tracking for my test that I am not? What are the main questions that I have to answer to know that my test was a successful or not successful test? And this can uh, this can affect your GA4 data, because if you didn't configure the data correctly, GA4 won't capture it correctly. So you can't work on segmentations without tracking them correctly prior the test.
One question here, Bruna.
Okay.
Are you offering such an audit if anybody is interested here to get a more accurate tracking?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
Yeah, sure. Are you offering an audit like this? So are you is this a service of AIM conversion that you are providing audits to show if a client needs to implement more events to get more accurate tracking?
Yes, we do this more related to the A/B test. So we do the consulting service where we guide you what you should track and why you should track and how to do accurate testing. And if you want to to make this our job, we can do that too. So we can either do the consulting or the work. Edge to edge.
Yes. All right.
And how to prioritize fixes and structure cleaner measurement foundations. So you have to start by mapping your business questions. Then you have to validate your data if your data supports the business questions. You have also to fix the critical gaps first. So broken conversions, undefined events, inconsistent parameters. You have to build a habit of documenting or your tracking plan and reviewing it regularly. And clean data is not just technical hygiene. It's what makes all your analysis, testing, and optimizations efforts actually worth it. So you have to be sure that you are tracking it correctly and you are clearing the data correctly to don't capture noises and wrongful behaviors. And how BigQuery can help unlock combinations that GA4 won't allow. What if I did the segment and I still can cross two metrics? So there are limitations based on the configurations, permissions, and type of data in GA4. In this case, the only solution is to use raw data, like BigQuery, when you can cross different sources, metrics, and type of data. If you aren't familiar with SQL queries, you have the feature uh, of Verify that allows you to search the data in BigQuery without making SQL consults. So it's very low code and very easy to use. So it's a nice option if you want to see raw data without have to learn the SQL consulting. So that's an example of the SQL consulting and the verify feature that allows you to do queries more quickly and more intuitively and without having to study all the hierarchy of the SQL consult.
Right. So basically, you can also compare the same metric. You can import from GA4 like purchases. You can also import from BigQuery and then compare if it was sample data or not. And of course, BigQuery is more accurate in this case and can be used with our extension.
Yes, exactly.
All right, then thank you, Bruna, for your presentation. I think it was great. It's great input for everybody who's interested in GA4 and BigQuery. If you like to learn more, feel free to follow us or make contact with us in LinkedIn. You will see the QR codes here. And also, I'd like to invite you to our BigQuery community in Slack. So it's the QR code on the bottom left here. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask now. We have like 1 or 2 minutes left where we can answer them. But if you have any questions after the webinar, feel free to just write us directly. All right. So let me
Thank
check.
you for the opportunity, and I hope we can make more insightful presentations like this in the future.
Yeah, sounds great. All right. Thank you. Let's wait for questions. I think we already answered them in the chat, most of them in the direct chat. Okay. Then thank you for joining, everybody. And I hope to see you in the next webinar. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.